If lately you've been feeling distant from people, not angry, not sad, just quietly disconnected, know this. Your heart is resting. Emotional distance is not abandonment. It is protection. Let us understand it together today. There comes a time in everyone's life when you suddenly feel distant from the world. People are still around you. Conversations still happen. Life continues in the same rhythm. Yet deep inside, something feels disconnected. You hear the laughter, but it doesn't reach your heart. You see familiar faces, but they no longer feel familiar. You speak the same words, but they feel empty. And even though nothing on the outside has changed, your inner world feels like it has quietly stepped back. This distance is not a mistake. This silence is not a failure. This disconnection is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that something inside you is trying to protect you, heal you, and awaken you. When the heart becomes overwhelmed, it withdraws. When the mind becomes overloaded, it creates distance. When the soul becomes tired, it asks for space. And when life becomes too loud, your being naturally moves into silence. You are not disconnected from people. You are reconnecting with yourself. For years, you have carried emotions you never processed. You have listened to others more than you listened to yourself. You have taken responsibilities that were not yours. You have played roles that did not match your truth. You have given energy to situations that drained you. You have stayed available to everyone except your own heart. When the weight becomes too heavy, the heart closes its doors, not out of anger, not out of rejection, but out of exhaustion. It says, "Let me rest. Let me breathe. Let me find myself again." The disconnection you feel is the heart healing in silence. People think distance means something is wrong. But sometimes distance is the only way the soul can breathe again. You begin to notice this disconnection when small things stop affecting you. You don't feel irritated the way you used to. You don't feel excited the way you used to. Even emotional highs and lows don't reach you the same way. It's like someone turned down the volume of the world. This is not numbness. This is protection. Your being is trying to prevent further overload. It is creating space so you can release old emotions gently. It is creating silence so you can hear your inner voice again. It is creating distance so you can return to yourself without interference. You may wonder why this disconnection happens even with people you love. It is because love also requires energy, presence, attention. When your inner world becomes tired, even love feels heavy, not because love is the problem, but because your heart needs rest. Love cannot bloom in a tired heart. Connection cannot grow in a crowded mind. Closeness cannot flourish when your soul feels suffocated. So life creates distance, not to punish you, but to save you. This distance is like a soft night that comes after a long day. The darkness is not dangerous, it is healing. It gives your inner world a chance to settle, to release, to breathe. As you sit in this inner night, you may feel alone, but this aloneness is not loneliness. Loneliness is craving others. Aloneness is returning to yourself, and right now you are returning. Slowly, gently, quietly, you are coming back to your true center, the place inside you that gets lost in noise, the place inside you that gets buried under expectations, the place inside you that gets overshadowed by responsibilities, the place inside you that gets forgotten while living for others. This disconnection is helping you find that center again. When the world becomes too heavy, you withdraw. When people's energies overwhelm you, you step back. When relationships begin demanding more than you can give, you become silent. Not because you don't care, but because you care too deeply, and your heart needs time to return to its soft rhythm. Emotional distance is not rejection, it is recovery. It is the soul putting its hands gently on your shoulders and saying, "Stop, rest, come home." And when you listen to this call, when you allow yourself to step back, to breathe, to just be, you begin to realize that this distance is not emptiness. It is space. Space inside your chest. Space inside your mind. Space inside your heart. Space that was missing for years. This space is the beginning of healing. This space is the beginning of clarity. This space is the beginning of a new connection with yourself. You are not disconnected from life. You are reconnecting with truth. You are not disconnected from others. You are reconnecting with your soul. You are not disconnected from the world. You are reconnecting with your inner world. And soon, when your heart has rested, when your mind has quieted, when your soul has regained energy, this distance will melt on its own, not because you force it, not because you try to fix it, but because healing naturally brings you back into alignment. For now, your only work is to allow this distance, to sit with it gently, to breathe with it softly, to trust it completely, because this disconnection is the doorway through which a deeper, truer connection will rise. As you sit with this distance, something subtle begins to reveal itself to you. You start to notice that this disconnection you feel from people is not new. It did not suddenly appear out of nowhere. It has been growing quietly inside you for years. Hidden under responsibilities, buried under old hurts, covered by the noise of daily life. You lived with it without noticing because life kept you busy, occupied, distracted. But now, for the first time, you have become still enough to feel what was always waiting beneath the surface. This distance is not between you and others. It is between you and the parts of yourself you abandoned long ago. There was a time when you opened your heart fully. You felt deeply. You trusted openly. You gave yourself without holding back, and somewhere along the way, someone mishandled that trust. Someone hurt that openness. Someone took more than your heart could afford to give, and slowly, piece by piece, without even realizing it, you built a quiet distance inside yourself. A distance meant to protect you. A distance meant to prevent more pain. A distance meant to keep your inner world safe. Now that distance has grown so deep that you feel it everywhere, in conversations, in relationships, in the simplest interactions. Not because people are wrong, not because you are wrong, but because your heart has learned to guard itself, to stay a little further back, to not rush forward the way it once did. This protective distance is natural. It is an intelligence of the soul. It allows you to survive emotional storms. It helps you hold yourself together when you are fragile. It gives you room to breathe when the world feels too heavy. But with time, that same protection becomes a cage. What once saved you begins to separate you from life. What once kept you safe begins to keep you alone. What once helped you heal begins to make you feel numb. This is where you are now, not broken, not damaged, not failing. You are simply standing at the doorway where your old protection no longer matches who you are becoming. Your being is evolving. Your awareness is expanding. Your soul is waking up. This awakening makes the old emotional distance feel uncomfortable. You are not meant to stay disconnected forever. You are meant to understand why the distance was created. And the truth is simple. You became distant from others because you became distant from yourself. You lost touch with your own heart while carrying the weight of everyone else's. You silenced your own needs to meet the expectations others placed on you. You ignored your inner voice to maintain peace outside. You forgot your own emotional truth because the world never asked for it. Now this disconnection is forcing you to look inward. It is telling you, before you return to the world, return to yourself. This is why no person feels close right now. It is not because they are unworthy. It is because your soul wants you to discover your own closeness first. You can only connect deeply when you are deeply connected to yourself. You can only understand others when you understand your own heart. You can only love fully when you are not hiding from your own emotions. This disconnection is stopping you from pouring from an empty cup. And for the first time, the silence between you and others is teaching you something profound, the truth that life is not asking you to give right now. Life is asking you to receive. To receive rest, to receive clarity, to receive softness, to receive your own presence. You may notice that conversations feel tiring, crowds feel overwhelming, even small emotional demands feel heavy. This is not weakness. This is your nervous system resetting itself. This is your heart recovering. This is your soul cleansing emotional overload. It feels distant because you are detoxing from emotional weight you carried for years without pause. And as this detox happens, you begin to see people differently. Not with judgment, not with anger, but with a clarity that comes from distance. You start realizing who drains your energy. You start noticing who only takes but never gives. You start understanding who sees you and who only uses you. You start recognizing who values your presence and who values your convenience. Distance reveals truth. From closeness, everything becomes blurry. From distance, everything becomes clear. This is why life has pulled you back, not to isolate you, but to show you clearly what you could not see from within the noise. And once the truth becomes clear, the heart becomes lighter. Not immediately, but slowly, like dust settling after a storm. You begin to breathe in a way you haven't in a long time. Your chest opens a little. Your mind becomes quieter. Your emotions soften. This is the beginning of reconnection, not with people, but with yourself. And when you reconnect with yourself, a miracle happens. You no longer feel disconnected from the world. You start feeling connected from inside outward instead of outside inward. The world cannot connect you to yourself. Only your own silence can. Right now, the silence is here. The distance is here. The emptiness is here. Not to punish you, but to reunite you with the person you lost while trying to be everything for everyone. And when you meet yourself again, the distance will slowly dissolve on its own. Not because you force it, but because you no longer need the protection it gave you. You will return to the world not as someone drained, but as someone whole. As this inner distance settles, you begin to sense something that was not visible when your mind was noisy. You feel a quiet truth rising from within, a truth that you had ignored for years, the truth that your heart has been tired, not from loving, but from loving without being understood. Tired from carrying emotions silently. Tired from pretending you were okay when you were breaking inside. Tired from holding everyone together while no one held you. This tiredness is not physical. It is emotional. It is spiritual. And emotional tiredness always shows itself through distance. When the heart is wounded, it cries. When the heart is exhausted, it withdraws. And when the heart is healing, it becomes silent. This silence feels like disconnection, but it is actually deeper than that. It is the soul saying, I need time. Time to process what the mind ignored. Time to release what the body held. Time to breathe after holding everything in for so long. Time to feel without being overwhelmed. Time to return to its original softness. Because the heart is naturally soft. It becomes hard only when it is hurt too many times. It becomes distant only when it carries too much. It becomes silent only when its voice has been neglected. Now, in this distance, the heart has space to soften again. You may feel like you cannot connect with people the way you once did. You may feel like every interaction takes energy out of you. You may feel like your social self has disappeared. You may feel like no one truly reaches your inner world anymore. This is because your soul is pulling you inward, not to isolate you, but to cleanse you. When you have lived for years giving emotionally, listening deeply, holding others, supporting without being supported, you reach a point where the soul quietly says, enough. Not enough love, not enough kindness, not enough connection, but enough of carrying more than your heart can handle. This distance is your heart rebalancing itself. For so long you stretched yourself thin trying to be strong, trying to be stable, trying to be everything for everyone. You did it silently, gracefully, without complaining, without asking for help. Now the same silence that helped you survive is helping you heal. You are not withdrawing from people. You are withdrawing from the parts of yourself that gave too much. In this withdrawal, something new begins. You start seeing the world without emotional fog. You start recognizing where your energy leaks. You start understanding who truly values you. You start noticing where you shrink yourself to fit. You start realizing who sees your presence and who sees your usefulness. Distance sharpens your vision. When you are too close to people, you see them through emotion. When you step back, you see them through awareness. And through this awareness, you begin to recognize that the disconnection you feel is not because you are broken, it is because your soul is evolving. You are no longer resonating with the same energies, the same conversations, the same emotional environments. Your old self was attached to things that your new self cannot hold on to anymore. This shift feels like disconnection, but it is actually growth. Growth always creates distance before it creates connection. The seed breaks before it becomes a sprout. The sprout breaks the soil before it sees the sun. The butterfly leaves the cocoon before it flies. In the same way, you are breaking your old emotional shell. You are not losing people, you are losing the version of yourself who needed them for survival. You are not losing connection, you are losing the noise that blocked your real connection. You are not losing closeness, you are losing the emotional weight that suffocated closeness. You will connect again, but from a different space, a cleaner space, a calmer space, a more authentic space. Right now, the heart is asking for solitude, not loneliness, not isolation. Solitude. Solitude is the medicine of the soul. It is the space where the heart remembers its own rhythm. It is the silence where the mind unclenches. It is the stillness where your real self begins to rise. In this solitude, something starts shifting inside you slowly. Your breath becomes softer. Your body feels lighter. Your chest expands gently. Your thoughts lose their sharpness. Your emotions lose their intensity. You begin to realize that the disconnection is not the end of your emotional life. It is the beginning of emotional clarity. You are learning something that most people never learn. How to be with yourself without fear. Because fear is what kept you attached. Fear is what made you overgive. Fear is what made you tolerate emotional chaos. Fear is what made you chase connection instead of letting it happen naturally. Now the fear is dissolving. The soul is becoming stronger. The heart is becoming wiser. The mind is becoming quieter. This distance is teaching you the greatest truth. You do not need to hold anyone to feel whole. You do not need to force closeness to feel connected. You do not need constant interaction to feel alive. Your aliveness comes from within. And when this inner aliveness rises, you will connect again, not from emptiness, but from fullness, not from need, but from awareness, not from fear of losing, but from freedom of being. For now, let the distance stay. Let it teach you. Let it heal you. Let it reshape you. Because when the heart returns after healing, it returns wiser, cleaner, softer, and more open than before. As this inner distance deepens into awareness, you begin to realize something profound. What you always called disconnection from people is actually reconnection with your truth. It is not that you can't feel others, it is that you are finally feeling yourself. It is not that you don't understand others, it is that you are finally understanding your own limits. It is not that you have stopped caring, it is that you are finally caring about your own energy. This shift is subtle but powerful. You begin to see that for most of your life, you were emotionally overstretched. You were available for everyone emotionally, mentally, energetically. You gave beyond what your heart could sustainably give. You carried emotions that were never yours. You took responsibility for others' pain. You absorbed energies that drained you quietly. And now, life has brought you into a phase where your being refuses to continue that pattern. This distance you feel is your natural boundary awakening. Earlier, you didn't have boundaries. You had survival. You helped because you didn't want to lose people. You stayed connected because you were afraid to be alone. You tolerated things because you feared conflict. You accepted unfairness because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. But the soul does not support such living for long. The soul begins to pull back when you ignore yourself. It creates distance so you can finally hear what you have been avoiding. It creates silence so you can feel how much you have been carrying. It creates emotional space so you can rebuild your connection from truth instead of fear. This is not disconnecting from people. This is disconnecting from old versions of you. You are stepping out of emotional patterns that drained your inner world. Patterns of pleasing, patterns of overgiving, patterns of pretending, patterns of holding everything together, patterns of ignoring your exhaustion. Now those patterns have broken, and their breaking feels like distance. You may wonder why you don't crave closeness anymore. It is because closeness requires energy. And right now your energy is healing. It is because connection requires vulnerability. And right now your heart is rebuilding its strength. It is because emotional intimacy requires presence. And right now your presence is returning to yourself. This shift is not a loss. It is a preparation. The universe never removes something without preparing space for something higher. This inner distance is preparing you for higher connections. Connections from awareness, not from wounds. Connections that nourish, not drain. Connections that support, not suffocate. Connections where you are seen, not used. But before those connections come, you must meet yourself deeply. This distance forces you to sit with your truth about what you want, your truth about what you can no longer tolerate, your truth about what drains your soul, your truth about what you genuinely feel, your truth about the people who align with your being and the people who don't. When you sit in silence long enough, you uncover truths you never allowed yourself to see. You stayed connected to some people only because you feared abandonment. You tolerated disrespect because you didn't want to be alone. You responded to messages even when your heart was tired. You pretended to be okay because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. You tried to fix relationships that were meant to fall away. You poured into hearts that were never meant to receive you. Now life is freeing you from all of this. This distance is not taking anyone away from you. It is taking away your need to lose yourself for others. You will connect again, but with a different foundation. A foundation built on peace, not pressure. A foundation built on truth, not fear. A foundation built on wholeness, not emptiness. A foundation built on presence, not need. Right now, you are in the in-between space. The space where the old version of you is fading and the new version hasn't fully arrived. This in-between feels lonely. It feels confusing. It feels like nothing fits, but this is exactly how transformation happens. The seed does not become a tree in the soil. It becomes mush first. It dissolves. It breaks. It becomes unrecognizable before it becomes new. You are in that sacred dissolving. Your old emotional identity has dissolved. Your old emotional habits have dissolved. Your old emotional reactions have dissolved. Your old emotional attachments have dissolved. And in this dissolving, a new you is slowly forming, not a version shaped by survival, but a version shaped by awareness. This new you does not chase connection, it attracts it. This new you does not fear aloneness, it understands it. This new you does not overextend, it protects its peace. This new you does not lose itself in others, it remains rooted in itself. And here is the miracle. When you become rooted in yourself, the right people naturally come closer. The right relationships naturally deepen. The right energies naturally align. The right conversations naturally happen. The right connections feel effortless. Not because you try, but because you are no longer reaching from emptiness. Connection becomes natural when the soul is full. But before that fullness comes, the soul empties you. It removes the noise. It removes the old wounds. It removes the emotional weight. It removes the unconscious attachments. It removes the expectations of others. This removal feels like distance, and that distance feels like loneliness. But in truth, it is freedom beginning to rise. This distance is the space where your soul stretches, breathes, realigns. This distance is where you begin to hear yourself. This distance is where inner clarity dawns. This distance is where the fog lifts and the light enters. And when the light enters, you will look back and realize this disconnection was not the darkest moment of your life. It was the moment your real life began. As you remain in this inner distance, something begins to clear slowly, gently, like fog lifting after a long night. You start to feel that the disconnection you once feared is not darkness at all. It is clarity taking shape. When you step away from the noise of the world, you finally begin to hear your own voice. And that voice is not chaotic, not confused, not broken. It is soft, steady, ancient, and wise. It speaks not from fear but from truth. It reminds you of something you forgot while trying to belong everywhere. You were never meant to lose yourself to be loved. For so long you believed that closeness meant merging, that connection meant self-sacrifice, that love meant giving until it hurt. And slowly, quietly, without realizing it, you drifted away from your own center. You gave parts of yourself that were sacred. You betrayed your own boundaries. You silenced your own needs. You stayed present even when your heart was exhausted. You held others even when no one held you. And all of this created an emptiness inside, a distance between you and your own being. Now life has brought you into a phase where the soul is correcting the balance. This distance you feel is not punishment, it is alignment. It is your soul pulling you back to your own center. It is your inner self saying, return home. You may notice how in this distance you no longer tolerate emotional noise. You no longer tolerate fake connections. You no longer tolerate shallow conversations. You no longer tolerate draining relationships. You no longer tolerate being the only one who understands. The heart becomes distant from anything that no longer matches its vibration. This is the wisdom of disconnection. Your soul knows what belongs in your life and what does not. Your soul knows which energies nourish you and which energies empty you. Your soul knows who deserves your presence and who deserves your absence. Distance reveals the truth the heart was too tired to say out loud. You begin to see clearly who truly values you. People who cared only when you were available now feel distant. People who loved the convenience of you now fade away. People who needed your energy now feel heavy. People who never looked deeper than your surface no longer feel aligned. This clarity hurts, but it also frees you, because now you are no longer living in emotional illusion. You are living in emotional truth. Truth may feel lonely at first, but loneliness is better than living in pretended closeness. A peaceful distance is better than a chaotic connection. A quiet heart is better than a crowded life. And slowly, As this truth settles, something even deeper begins to awaken within you. Self-respect that was buried under pleasing, self-respect that was overshadowed by guilt, self-respect that was forgotten while carrying others' pain, self-respect that now rises because you have finally stopped abandoning yourself. Self-respect creates natural boundaries that do not need anger to exist, boundaries that do not need explanation, boundaries that are simply the expression of your awareness, boundaries that say, I choose peace over pressure, boundaries that say, I choose truth over attachment, boundaries that say, I choose myself. This is why you feel distant, because you have finally returned to your own value. You are no longer trying to force connection with people who cannot meet you. You are no longer shrinking yourself to maintain relationships that drain you. You are no longer giving attention to energies that feed on you. You are no longer available for things that disconnect you from yourself. This distance has resurrected your inner dignity, a dignity that feels like quiet strength, a dignity that feels like calm independence, a dignity that does not crave validation, a dignity that does not chase, a dignity that simply exists. In this state, love becomes deeper but rarer. Connection becomes meaningful but intentional. Closeness becomes sacred, not casual. And the most beautiful part is this: the right people feel closer when you connect from awareness, not from emptiness. Your presence becomes heavier, fuller, quieter, and more real. People who are meant for you feel your energy even in silence. People who resonate with your soul move toward you naturally. People who see your depth feel comfort in your distance. People who understand your silence feel safe inside it. Distance becomes a filter. It removes what is false, it keeps what is real. And gradually, something gentle begins to happen. You stop fearing distance. Instead, you begin appreciating it. You begin respecting it. You begin seeing its sacredness. Because you realize that the heart does not disconnect without good reason. Whatever made you distant had already disconnected you long ago. You were just too busy, too emotional, too loyal to notice. Now that your awareness is awake, you cannot remain blind anymore. This distance is teaching you how to love without losing yourself, how to connect without absorbing others' pain, how to feel without drowning, how to give without emptying your soul, how to be present without abandoning your own presence. And as this awareness deepens, you begin to experience a new kind of peace. A peace that comes not from people, but from within. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. A peace that flows naturally the moment you stop betraying yourself. This peace feels like warm light around your heart. This peace feels like space in your chest. This peace feels like breathing for the first time after years. This peace feels like coming home. You will connect again, but not from need, not from fear, not from habit. You will connect from fullness. You will connect from clarity. You will connect from truth. And this time, the connection will not drain you. It will expand you. As you move deeper into this phase of distance, something inside you begins to settle in a way it never did before. A quiet acceptance forms, not the acceptance that comes from giving up, but the acceptance that comes from finally understanding your own inner world, you begin to see that not every silence needs to be filled, not every connection needs to be maintained, not every relationship needs to be saved. Sometimes the most powerful act of love is stepping back, breathing, and allowing things to align naturally. This distance has shown you that your heart was overstretched, not because others demanded too much, but because you gave too much. You gave without checking your own capacity. You offered emotional presence, even when your inner presence was weak. You tried to be strong for people when inside you were tired. And over time, your being created distance not as a punishment, but as protection. Now, in this space, you are learning to understand yourself without noise. You are learning to listen to the subtle signals of your heart. You are learning to sense the tensions you ignored earlier. You are learning to recognize where your soul whispers yes and where it whispers no. When you become deeply quiet, you begin to see that your disconnection is not from people, it is from the roles you played for too long. Roles that suffocated you, roles that were expected of you, roles that did not match your truth, roles that forced you to hide parts of yourself. And the moment you become distant from these roles, you naturally become distant from the people connected to those roles. You are not disconnecting from relationships. You are disconnecting from versions of yourself that never felt authentic. This is why the distance feels both painful and freeing at the same time. Painful because it feels unfamiliar. Freeing because it feels honest. You begin to realize that many connections were built on your efforts, not on mutual energy. They stayed alive because you kept them alive. The moment you stopped pouring yourself into them, they faded. Not because the love was false, but because the connection was one-sided. This distance is showing you what was real and what was maintained out of habit. And slowly, a new awareness begins to form, a clarity that becomes stronger than emotion, stronger than attachment, stronger than fear. The awareness that not every person in your life is meant to stay. Some people were meant to teach you. Some were meant to awaken you. Some were meant to challenge you. Some were meant to push you inward. And some were meant only for a chapter, not the whole story. This understanding reduces the heaviness of disconnection, because now you know that letting go is not loss, it is alignment. Distance is not rejection, it is redirection. Silence is not emptiness, it is recalibration. In this space, your heart learns something it never understood before. Love does not disappear when you take distance. Love becomes purer. The love that was tangled with fear begins to untangle. The love that was mixed with expectations begins to simplify. The love that needed reassurance becomes quiet. The love that needed attachment becomes free. Distance teaches love how to breathe. For the first time, you begin to feel love without clinging, connection without losing yourself, care without carrying unnecessary burdens, presence without emotional exhaustion. This is the deepest gift of emotional distance. It brings love back to its natural form. A love that expands without pressure. A love that gives without fear. A love that moves from fullness instead of emptiness. A love that is rooted in awareness instead of wounds. And in this new space, you also begin to feel something else, your own soul's presence. It feels like a soft vibration inside your chest, a calm warmth, a gentle aliveness, something that does not demand anything from you, but fills you simply by being there. This is your true self. You were disconnected from it for years while trying to stay connected to the world. Now the world feels distant, but you feel close to yourself. It is a strange paradox, losing outer connection to find inner connection.